Okay, so we have taken a look in the previous video at the transaction analysis sheets for Amanda's campus delivery and figured out we already knew what we were debiting and crediting, and so we went ahead and put those all into our T accounts that we had set up for all the accounts in the chart of accounts. And we put all the debits and credits from our analysis sheets into those T accounts. And at the end of the previous video, we started working on footing and balancing. Now, in this case, in this Excel template, I have already put in so you can see the formula for the footings. So the footings formulas are already in there, and so they're adding up the debit sides and the credit sides. So all you needed to do is to take the big number minus the small number, put it on the side of the big number to get the actual balance. Now, if you're using the T accounts and handwriting on them, remember, of course, that you will have to do these footings. You'll have to add each column and get the debit and credit footings before you can get the balance. All right, so we had already calculated $370 is the debit balance of cash, $650 is the debit balance for accounts receivable. Now, when we take a look at T accounts where they're only have a number on one side, then you don't really need to figure out the balance. So like supplies, obviously, clearly, not only the footing is 80 debit footing, it's an 80 debit balance. And I don't need to rewrite the 80 down a second time. Okay, it's clearly $80 is the debit balance. Same thing here with prepaid insurance. It's clearly a $200 debit footing and a $200 debit balance. Delivery equipment also only has stuff on one side, so clearly it's a $3,600 debit balance. Accounts payable does have stuff on both sides, so I need to take the big number, $2,100, minus the small number, $300, and that gives me $1,800. I put it on the side of the big number, and I can ask myself, is this normal? Is it normal that accounts payable has a credit balance? Yes, it is normal. That's the normal balance for a liability, is a credit. Okay? Now, my capital only has something on one side, drawing only has something on one side, so I just leave those be. Delivery fees only has stuff on one side, so I leave it be with just the footing. Wages, rent, and phone all have something only on one side, so I just leave them be with just the footing. Okay, so now I have all of my T accounts footed and balanced, and my next step is to make a trial balance so that I can see, do my total debits equal my total credits? If not, that means I made a mistake somewhere. Maybe when I was putting it into the T accounts, if I accidentally put something on the debit side that was supposed to be on the credit side, or maybe I analyzed it wrong in the first place. In any case, I have a mistake and I need to find that out. Okay, so we can go over here to the side, and we're going to first put in our heading. So that's the name of the company. Amanda's campus delivery. And And what is this? It's a trial balance. And you're going to use the last day of the month, even if it wasn't the last day of the last transaction. Even if the transaction was on, the last transaction was on the 28th or 29th, in this case of June, you're still going to put the last day of the month of June. So the last day of June is always the 30th, June 30th. Okay, and so now we are going to list out our accounts, and we're going to have a debit balance and a credit balance. Now let's go ahead and auto fit the column width, okay, and that should give us enough room for our accounts. So we're going to list out all the accounts in the same order that they're in the chart of accounts. So cash, accounts receivable, supplies, prepaid insurance, delivery equipment, accounts payable, AA capital, AA comma drawing, delivery fees, wages, expense, rent, expense, and telephone expense. Okay, so now we have all of our accounts listed down, and we're going to put in the balance that we have from these T accounts. So the cash balance is $370 on the debit side. Now, if all of your numbers are whole numbers, every single one, then it's not so bad to have all the numbers be whole numbers. But it's still better in accounting, official accounting things, to also have the number be, in other words, we'd have 370 and a dash, or 370.00. That looks more formal than just having the whole numbers, but it's okay as long as they're all whole numbers. If there's even one number that has 34 cents or some penny amount, then every single number in that report has to have pennies. It has to be a .00 or a dash or something to indicate that they are not a whole number. You cannot mix whole numbers and those that have pennies. Okay, so accounts receivable is a $650 debit, and supplies is an $80 debit, prepaid insurance is a $200 debit, delivery equipment is $3,600 debit, accounts payable is $1,800 credit, capital is $2,000 credit, drawing is $150 debit, delivery fees is $21.50 credit, wages is $650 debit, rent is $200 debit, and phone is $50 debit. Okay, so there we have all of our balances from our T accounts are now in our trial balance. So now we need to total them up. Total up the credit side. Okay, so our total debits are $59.50, our total credits are $59.50. Of course, if you were doing these by hand, you would have to add those up and make sure that you get total debits equaling total credits. What happens if they don't equal? Well, first of all, write your numbers down. Write down the total debits and write down what you get for the total credits, even if it's different. Then start to look for the difference. You can find the difference, and maybe that will lead you somewhere. Usually if you find the difference, let's say that this capital number, this 2,000, we had accidentally stuck it on the debit side. Okay, so now our debit totals $79.50 and our credit totals $39.50. So your first step would be to take the $79.50 minus the $39.50, and that's $4,000 is your difference. And you look and see, is there anywhere where there's a 4,000 in here? No, there's not. So your next thing would be to divide it in 2 and look for that number. So $79.50 minus $39.50 is 4,000. 4,000 divided by 2 is 2,000. Now you look and see, is there a 2,000? Well, yes, there is. I have this number 2,000. And you ask yourself, is it on the correct side? Okay, the capital, which is our owner investment account, that's supposed to normally have a credit balance. And we have it on the debit side. And we take a look at our T account and we see, oops, yeah, it is supposed to be a credit. So now I have more easily found which one. I didn't have to go through all of these to try to find. Okay, so let me put that back there. All right, so now let's so now we're back to even. Now what if I accidentally, look at this drawing account is 150. What if I accidentally put in 510? In other words, I switched the 1 and the 5. That's called a transposition. What if I did that? Now, again, I don't balance. So I find the difference between the 6310 minus the 5950, that's the credit total, okay? And that's $360. So, difference. I divide that in 2, 360 divided by 2 is 180. And I look all in here, is there anything that's a 180? No, there's not. So my other thing that I could do is take this difference, the 6310 minus the 5950 is 360, and divide it by 9 instead of 2. And as long as your answer, doesn't matter what your answer is, but if your answer is a whole number, then you have a transposition somewhere in there. Now, you don't know where it is. Could be the cash you put 730 instead of 370. So you do have to check each one, but you're only checking to see if they have numbers, the digits are switched around somehow. And when you get down to drawing, you see that it's 150, and here you put it as 510. Okay, and when you correct